The stars had never looked so close. Captain Tae-young Kim stood on the bridge of the Determination, watching the massive alien ship approach through the darkness of space. It was beautiful in a way that made his chest tight. The vessel was 3 times larger than any ship humanity had ever built, covered in lights that shifted colors like a living thing. "They're here," said Hannah Park, his chief engineer. She stood beside him, her hands shoved deep in her pockets. She always did that when she was nervous. "Yeah," Tae-young said quietly. "They're here." After 200 years of searching, after countless radio signals sent into the void, after generations of people looking up and wondering if they were alone, the answer had finally come. And it had come with rules. The alien ship docked with their station 3 hours later. The Galactic Assembly had sent 7 representatives, each from a different species. They moved through the airlock with the kind of slow dignity that comes from being important for a very long time. High Arbiter Velmos led them. He was tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished stone and eyes that glowed faintly blue. Behind him walked Commander Thilax, a broad creature covered in what looked like natural armor. The others followed in a line, each more strange and wonderful than the last. Ambassador Jiwoo Choi met them in the reception hall. She had practiced her greeting 1,000 times, but her voice still shook slightly when she spoke. "Welcome to Earth Station Alpha. We are honored by your presence." Velmos inclined his head. When he spoke, a device on his chest translated his words into perfect English. "We greet you, young species. Your persistence has earned you this audience." They gathered in the conference room, humans on one side of the long table, aliens on the other. Between them floated a holographic display showing documents written in languages humanity had only just begun to understand. For 300 cycles, the Galactic Assembly has maintained peace across 400 civilizations, Velmos began. His voice was calm and patient, like a teacher speaking to children. "We have watched your species for some time. You show promise, but also great instability." Tae-young felt his jaw tighten, but Jiwoo placed a gentle hand on the table. This was her moment, not his. "We understand we have much to learn," Jiwoo said carefully. "Indeed." Thilax leaned forward, his massive arms folded across his chest. "Which is why we offer you probationary membership. Conditional acceptance." The holographic display shifted, showing page after page of requirements. Technological standards, social development benchmarks, economic stability markers, environmental protocols. The list scrolled and scrolled. 247 requirements, Velmos said. "These are not suggestions. They are necessities. Every species who joins the assembly must meet them all." Hannah Park leaned over to read the translator's display on her tablet. Her eyes grew wider with each item. "These are impossible," she whispered to Tae-young. "Half of this tech doesn't even exist yet. How long do we have?" Jiwoo asked. The aliens looked at each other. Something passed between them, some silent communication that humans couldn't read. 3 standard years, Velmos said finally. The room fell silent. Jiwoo's face remained carefully neutral, but Tae-young saw her fingers grip the edge of the table. 3 years, Jiwoo repeated slowly. "Your time measurement is similar to ours," Thilax said. There was something in his voice that might have been amusement. 3 of your years, 3.26 to be precise. One of the other aliens, a creature with translucent skin and too many eyes, made a sound like wind chimes. The translator rendered it as laughter. "Most species require 12 to 15 years. Some take 20, but we are curious to see how fast humanity can move." Tae-young felt heat rise in his chest. They were testing them. No, worse than that. They were setting them up to fail. This was how they got rid of species they didn't want. Give them an impossible task, an impossible timeline, then point to the rules when humanity came up short. He stood up before he could stop himself. "Captain Kim," Jiwoo said sharply, but Tae-young was already talking. "We've got this," he said simply. The room went very quiet. All 7 aliens turned to look at him. Velmos tilted his head, his glowing eyes studying Tae-young with new interest. "You believe you can meet all requirements in 3 years?" the High Arbiter asked. "Yes," Tae-young said. "We've got this." Another sound like wind chimes. The translucent alien was definitely laughing now. Thilax made a rumbling sound deep in his chest. Even Velmos's expression shifted into what might have been a smile. "Such confidence," Thilax said. We have heard such words before. 23 times before, in fact, from 23 species who attempted this same trial. And, Hannah Park asked, standing beside her captain, and all of them failed. Velmos gestured at the holographic display. These requirements exist for good reason. They cannot be rushed. They cannot be cheated. Technology must be developed carefully. Society must evolve naturally. These things take time. Then we'll work fast, Tae-young said. The aliens exchanged those looks again. Humans were clearly amusing to them, like children claiming they could move mountains. Velmos tapped something on the arm of his chair. The holographic display compressed into a single glowing sphere. Very well. The trial begins now. You will submit progress reports every 30 days. Assembly observers will monitor your development. At the end of 3 years, we will return for final evaluation. He stood and the others rose with him. We wish you fortune, humans. You will need it. They left the same way they came, in a slow, dignified line. The massive alien ship detached from the station an hour later and disappeared into the darkness between stars. Ji-woo waited until they were alone before she turned to Tae-young. That was reckless. That was necessary, Tae-young replied. You saw how they looked at us. They think we're a joke. Maybe we are, Hannah said quietly. She was looking at the list of requirements again, her tablet screen glowing in the dim light. This is insane. We'd need to revolutionize 15 different fields of science. We'd need to reorganize our entire civilization. We'd need to build ships and stations and technologies we've only dreamed about. So we'll dream faster, Tae-young said. Ji-woo rubbed her temples. 3 years. We've got this, Tae-young said again, and this time he smiled. Send a message to Earth. Send it to every station, every colony, every ship in the system. Tell them what the assembly asked for. Tell them what we promised. And what did we promise? Ji-woo asked. Tae-young looked out the window at the stars, at the vast darkness where the alien ship had vanished. Somewhere out there, 7 beings from ancient civilizations were laughing about the foolish humans who thought they could do the impossible. They had no idea what was coming. We promised them we've got this, Tae-young said. Now let's prove it. Observer Prilnik had drawn the short straw. That's what his colleagues called it anyway. Humans didn't actually use straws for decisions, but they had explained the concept to him during his briefing. The losing option. The unwanted duty monitoring. Humanity's inevitable failure was considered the most boring assignment in the entire galactic. Assembly. His ship emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of Earth's solar system. He checked his instruments and frowned. The readings couldn't be right. According to his sensors, there were 17,000 active vessels moving through the system. That was impossible. 6 months ago, humans had maybe 200 ships total. He ran the diagnostic 3 times. The numbers didn't change. Computer, verify scan accuracy, he said. Scan accuracy confirmed. 17,462 vessels detected. Classification, industrial, military, civilian, and research. Prilnik felt his secondary stomach twist. Something was wrong here. He guided his ship deeper into the system and the wrongness only grew. Between Mars and Jupiter, where there should have been empty space and a few small mining stations, he found a city. No, not a city. A floating industrial complex the size of a small moon. Hundreds of ships swarmed around it like insects, carrying raw materials from the asteroid belt. This is impossible, Prilnik whispered. Near Earth's moon, 7 massive shipyards hung in space, each one building vessels that made his observer ship look tiny. Near Mars, dozens of research stations formed a loose ring around the planet. Further out, automated mining platforms stripped asteroids to their core and sent the resources flowing inward on precise trajectories. It had been 6 months. 6 months. Prilnik opened a communication channel to Earth Station Alpha. A human face appeared on his screen, young, tired-looking, with dark circles under her eyes. Observer Prilnik, she said. We've been expecting you. I'm Hannah Park, Chief Engineering Coordinator. What happened here? Prilnik asked. The question came out more sharply than he intended. Hannah smiled. It was not a nice smile. It was the smile of someone who hadn't slept in days and was running on pure determination. We got to work. Permission to dock? 3 hours later, Prilnik stood in a conference room that smelled like coffee and stress. Hannah Park stood at the head of the table, pulling up display after display of data. Behind her, a window showed the organized chaos of the station's docking bay. "Here's where we are," Hana said, jumping straight to business. 89 of your 247 requirements completed. Another 63 in final testing phases. The rest are in active development. Prilnek's mouth went dry. 89. In 6 months. We've been busy. Hana pulled up a star chart showing the entire solar system. Hundreds of icons blinked across it. We've built 70 new orbital platforms. We've established 3 permanent stations around Mars and 2 around Jupiter's moons. We've automated resource gathering across the asteroid belt. We've increased our manufacturing capacity by 800%. But how? Prilnek asked. These developments should take years, decades. A new voice spoke from the doorway. We stopped sleeping much. Dr. Yuna Lee walked in carrying a tablet and what looked like her 5th cup of coffee that day. She was younger than Prilnek expected, with bright eyes that held a slightly manic energy. Dr. Lee leads our faster-than-light research division, Hana explained. Your briefing said FTL travel was requirement 147, Prilnek said carefully. One of the most difficult items on the list. The assembly expects species to develop it near the end of the trial period. Yeah, well, we needed it earlier, Yuna said, dropping into a chair. So we figured it out. Figured it out, Prilnek repeated numbly. Your assembly documentation said the quantum bridge approach was theoretically impossible. Too unstable, too dangerous. Yuna grinned. Turns out it's not impossible. Just really, really hard. We ran 40,000 variations simultaneously across 12 different research stations. Number 33,612 worked. Prilnek sat down without meaning to. You tested 40,000 variations of a potentially catastrophic technology. In 6 months, 5 months, Yuna corrected. We spent the first month just reading all your technical documentation and figuring out what we needed to do. That's insane. That's humanity, Hana said simply. Over the next 2 days, Prilnek toured the solar system. Everywhere he looked, he found the impossible made real. On Mars, he met Daehyun Oh, who coordinated the civilian mining operations. Daehyun was a rough man with scarred hands and a laugh that echoed across the communication channels. We turned it into a competition, Daehyun explained, floating in zero gravity outside an asteroid processing station. Every mining crew tries to beat the others. Prizes for most ore extracted, fastest processing time, most efficient routes. You'd be amazed what people can do when they're trying to win. But this violates standard safety protocols, Prilnek protested. The assembly has strict guidelines about mining operations. Daehyun shrugged. Your guidelines assume everyone's careful and slow. We're careful and fast. Different approach, same result. Nobody's died yet. Yet, Prilnek repeated weakly. Back on Earth, he met with teams working on social requirements, political reform, economic restructuring, environmental restoration. Each group was making progress that should have been impossible. How are you coordinating all of this? Prilnek asked Jiwoo during a private meeting. The ambassador looked as tired as everyone else, but there was steel in her eyes. We're not really, Jiwoo admitted. We gave everyone the list of requirements and said go. People just started working. Scientists, engineers, politicians, ordinary citizens. Everyone found something they could contribute to. That's chaos. That's humanity, Jiwoo said, echoing Hana's words. We're very good at organized chaos. Prilnek spent hours each night writing his reports back to the assembly. He tried to explain what he was seeing, but his words felt inadequate. How could he make them understand? Humans weren't following the proper procedures. They weren't developing technology in the careful, measured way that had worked for hundreds of species over thousands of years. They were brute-forcing their way through every problem. If something looked impossible, they tried it anyway. If it failed, they tried something else. They worked around the clock, teams handing off to other teams so the work never stopped. They competed with each other, pushed each other, drove each other to move faster and faster. It was reckless. It was dangerous. It was working. On his last day before returning to report in person, Prilnek found Hana in one of the shipyards. She was overseeing the construction of humanity's first truly deep space vessel, something that could travel between stars. We're calling it the Resolution, Hana said, looking up at the massive ship taking shape. She'll be ready in 4 months, faster than light capable, long-range sensors. Comfortable quarters for a crew of 200. Want to guess which requirement she fulfills? 23 different requirements, Prilnek said. He had memorized them all by now. You're building one ship that meets multiple objectives simultaneously. Work smarter, not just harder, Hana agreed. She turned to look at him and her tired smile faded into something more serious. You're going back to report. What are you going to tell them? Prilnik thought about the High Arbiter's amused expression, about Commander Thilax's rumbling laugh, about how certain they all were that humanity would fail. I'm going to tell them the truth, he said, that you're succeeding. And will they believe you? No, Prilnik admitted. They'll say it's beginner's luck, that you're cutting corners, that it's not sustainable. Hana nodded slowly. Then I guess we'll have to prove them wrong. She looked back at the ship under construction. You haven't seen anything yet, observer. We're just getting warmed up. As Prilnik's ship left the solar system, he looked back at the sprawling network of stations and ships, at the lights of human civilization spreading outward from their home planet like a wave. The assembly had given humanity 3 years to do the impossible. Prilnik suspected they wouldn't need nearly that long. The star was dying wrong. High Arbiter Velmos stared at the displays showing the outer rim sector, and for the first time in his 300-year career, he felt genuine fear. A stellar anomaly had appeared without warning, something that shouldn't exist according to every model they had. The dying star was sending out pulses of energy that disrupted every system within 5 light-years, 17 inhabited worlds. 4 billion souls, all of them in danger. Evacuation status, he asked. Proceeding according to protocol, his aide replied. First wave will begin in 72 hours. Complete evacuation will require approximately 4 months. 4 months. Velmos looked at the projection again. The red zone was spreading. We have perhaps 6 weeks before the outer worlds become uninhabitable. The aide's silence confirmed what Velmos already knew. They couldn't move fast enough. The Galactic Assembly had procedures for everything, careful protocols built over millennia. Those protocols saved lives, but they were also slow. Commander Thilax entered the command center, his heavy footsteps echoing. The assembly fleet is mobilizing. We'll have 200 ships in position within 1 week. Not enough, Velmos said quietly. Not nearly enough. Thilax's expression darkened. We've handled disasters before. Not like this. Velmos pulled up casualty projections. The numbers made his stomach turn. Even with perfect execution, we'll lose millions. The room fell silent. Around them, dozens of assembly officials worked frantically, but there was an air of quiet desperation. They were trying their best, following every rule, and it wasn't going to be enough. There is one option, Thilax said slowly. The humans have ships in this sector. Velmos turned to stare at him. The humans? They're barely 18 months into their trial. They're still learning basic protocols. They have ships, Thilax repeated. Fast ones, new ones. And they're only 2 days' travel from the crisis zone. Every instinct told Velmos this was a mistake. Humans were reckless. Humans broke rules. Humans couldn't be trusted with something this important. But the projections didn't lie. 4 billion lives hung in the balance. Send the request, Velmos said finally. Captain Tae-young received the emergency transmission while the Resolution was conducting deep space trials. He read it 3 times to make sure he understood correctly. The Galactic Assembly is asking for our help, he said aloud. Hana Park looked up from the engineering station. That's a first. They're requesting any available ships to assist with emergency evacuation. Tae-young pulled up the sector map. The red zone pulsed ominously. 17 worlds. Billions of people. They're saying they can't move them fast enough. How many ships do we have in range? Hana asked. Tae-young checked. The Resolution. 3 cargo haulers, 2 mining vessels, and about 40 civilian craft. That's not a fleet. That's barely a flotilla. It's what we have. Tae-young opened the ship-wide channel. All hands, this is the captain. We've received a distress call from the Galactic Assembly. Multiple worlds need immediate evacuation. We're going to help. Prepare for emergency operations. He switched to the general frequency. All human vessels in the outer rim, this is Captain Kim of the Resolution. The Assembly needs us. Any ship that can help, set course for the crisis zone. We leave in 1 hour. Hana was already pulling up evacuation protocols. The Assembly will have procedures, rules about how to do this safely. Read them on the way, Tae-young said. We don't have time to memorize a handbook. The human fleet, such as it was, arrived in the sector 2 days later. Tae-young had expected to find organized chaos. Instead, he found paralyzed order. Assembly ships moved in careful patterns, taking on refugees in small, manageable groups. Everything was being done by the book. It was going to get millions of people killed. "They're barely moving," Hana said, staring at the tactical display. "At this rate, they'll evacuate maybe 40% before the stellar pulses become lethal." Tae-young opened a channel to the assembly command ship. High Arbiter Velmos appeared on screen looking exhausted. "Captain Kim, your assistance is welcome. Please coordinate with Sector Controller Fen for evacuation assignments." "With respect, High Arbiter, we're not going to do that." Velmos blinked. "Excuse me? Your evacuation is too slow. You're following procedures that are getting people killed. We're going to do it differently." "Captain, these protocols exist for good reason. Safety must be maintained. Order must be preserved. Safety is a luxury when the star is exploding," Tae-young said bluntly. "We're going in. Try to keep up." He cut the channel before Velmos could respond. The human fleet split into a dozen groups, each one racing toward a different world. They ignored approach patterns. They ignored safety margins. They landed in cities and started loading people as fast as the ships could hold them. On the mining world of Kef 7, Dae-hyun-oh brought his cargo hauler down in the middle of a crowded plaza. The loading ramp dropped and he started shouting in broken galactic common, waving people aboard. Come fast. No bags, just people. Move." The aliens stared at him in confusion. They were waiting in organized lines, as assembly protocol required. Dae-hyun didn't have time for lines. He jumped down from the ramp and started physically pulling people toward the ship. "No time, star is dying. Get on ship. Now." His urgency translated across species barriers. The crowd broke and surged forward. Within minutes, his ship was packed far beyond rated capacity. Aliens stood shoulder to shoulder in the cargo bay, pressed together in a mass of bodies in fear. "This is unsafe," an assembly official protested. "This is alive," Dae-hyun shouted back. "We go." Across 17 worlds, similar scenes played out. Human ships landed anywhere they could fit. They loaded people standing, sitting, hanging onto support rails. They didn't check manifests. They didn't verify identities. They just packed bodies into every available space and took off again. On the Resolution, Dr. Sung Park set up a medical center that should have been impossible. The ship's medical bay was designed for human anatomy, but refugees were arriving from 17 different species, each with different biology. "I don't know how to treat these people," one of the nurses said, staring at an alien child with translucent skin. "Figure it out," Sung replied. "Basic principles are universal. Stop bleeding. Stabilize breathing. Keep them alive. The details we can work out later." She moved between patients with controlled chaos, adapting human medical techniques on the fly. When an alien's biochemistry didn't respond to standard treatments, she improvised. When she didn't have the right equipment, she built something that worked well enough. "This is completely against medical protocols," an assembly doctor said, watching her work. "Your protocols are in a textbook somewhere safe," Sung said, not looking up from her patient. "These people are dying right here. I'll read the textbook later." On the surface, civilian coordinator Jia Song took command of the ground operations. She had never been in the military. She had never trained for crisis management. But she had spent 3 years organizing relief efforts after natural disasters on Earth, and she knew how to move people when seconds counted. "Stop forming lines," she shouted through a translator. "Get to any ship. It doesn't matter which one. Just get off this planet." Assembly officials tried to maintain order. They called out manifest numbers. They checked documentation. Jia ignored them and directed crowds toward human vessels. When an official physically tried to stop her, she looked him in the eyes. "Get out of my way or I will move you. Those are the only options." He moved. The human approach spread like a virus. Other species started copying their methods. Ships pushed past safety limits. Loading procedures were abandoned. The careful ballet of assembly evacuation turned into a frantic race, and it worked. 4 days later, Velmos stood in his command center and stared at the numbers. 4 billion souls. They had projected losing 40%. Instead, casualties were less than 3%. The humans had saved 4.3 million lives through sheer audacity and refusal to follow rules. Tae-young's ship docked with the assembly command vessel. He looked exhausted, covered in dirt and sweat from working on the surface. Velmos met him in the docking bay. You violated every evacuation protocol, the High Arbiter said. Yes. You overloaded ships beyond safety limits. Yes. You created chaos that could have killed thousands but didn't. Velmos was quiet for a long moment. You saved millions, Tae-young shrugged. His casual gesture held no arrogance, just simple fact. We said we've got this. Did you think we were joking? Velmos looked at this young species, these reckless, impossible humans who turned disasters into problems and solved them through brute force and determination. No, he said quietly. I am beginning to believe you were not joking at all. The chamber fell silent when Ambassador Jiwoo entered. 2 years and 4 months. That's how long it had been since the Assembly had given humanity its impossible task. Now she walked through doors that led to the Great Hall where 400 civilizations gathered to make decisions that shaped the galaxy. Every seat was filled. Every eye was watching. Jiwoo had expected this. News of humanity's completion report had spread fast. The species that had been given 3 years to meet 247 requirements was claiming they had finished early. With 8 months to spare, it was unheard of. She reached the central platform and placed her data crystal into the reader. The holographic display came to life, showing requirement after requirement marked complete. The silence deepened. High Arbiter Velmos spoke first. You claim to have satisfied all requirements? We do, Jiwoo said. Her voice was steady. The data is available for review. Commander Thillax stood abruptly. His voice boomed across the chamber. Impossible. 30 species have attempted this trial. Only 7 succeeded, and the fastest completion time was 4 years and 3 months. You're claiming to have done it in less than 3 years? Yes. Then you cheated. Thillax's accusation hung in the air. You falsified data, or you stole technology from other species, or you found some other way to circumvent the intent of the trial. Murmurs spread through the assembled representatives. Jiwoo felt anger flash hot in her chest, but she kept her face calm. She had known this was coming. We built everything ourselves, she said clearly. We can demonstrate any technology. We can open any facility for inspection. We have nothing to hide. Pretty words, Thillax said. But I don't believe them. Velmos raised a hand for silence. The commander raises valid concerns. Such rapid progress is unusual. The Assembly votes to conduct a full inspection of humanity's claimed achievements. We welcome it, Jiwoo said. And, Velmos continued, his eyes fixed on her, we propose an additional test. Jiwoo felt a chill run down her spine. What kind of test? The High Arbiter gestured and the holographic display changed. It showed a scenario Jiwoo didn't recognize. 3 hostile species on the edge of war, a disabled ship in neutral territory, an unknown species that had never been contacted. This is the Kovath scenario, Velmos said. A theoretical situation designed to test every skill the Assembly values. Diplomacy, military capability, first contact protocols, crisis management, resource allocation, all happening simultaneously under extreme time pressure. It's impossible, someone said from the crowd. The last species to attempt it had 6 months to prepare. They failed catastrophically. Velmos nodded. 23 species have been presented with the Kovath scenario. None have passed. It is designed to be unsolvable, to show the limits of what any civilization can achieve. Why show us the limits? Jiwoo asked quietly. Because overconfidence kills, Thillax said. Because species need to know when to ask for help. Because the galaxy is full of problems that cannot be solved by one civilization alone. And you want us to attempt this scenario? Jiwoo asked. If you want full membership, Velmos confirmed. If you want us to believe your achievements are real. If you want to prove that humanity deserves a place among us. He paused. You have 48 hours from the moment you accept. The previous species had 6 months, 48 hours, 2 days. Jiwoo thought about all the impossible things humanity had already done. She thought about Tae-young's steady confidence, about Hana's exhausted determination, about millions of humans working together toward a common goal. We accept, she said. The chamber erupted in noise. Aliens arguing with each other, shouting questions, expressing disbelief. Through it all, Velmos watched Jiwoo with an expression she couldn't read. The test begins now, he said. The mission briefing happened on board the Resolution. Captain Tae Young studied the scenario data with his senior staff gathered around him. Hana Park, Dr. Yuna Lee, Medical Officer Sung Park, and two new faces. Bora Nam was the youngest ambassador in human diplomatic service. She was 26 years old and had been in space for exactly 8 months. She looked terrified. "Why am I here?" she asked. "I'm nobody. I just started." "You're here because Ambassador Jiwoo trusts you," Tae Young said, "and because sometimes being new means seeing things others miss." The other new face was Min Seo Kang, a xenolinguist who studied alien communication. She had spent the last 2 years learning everything she could about non-human species. Now she stared at the first contact scenario with wide eyes. "They've never made contact with anyone," Min Seo said. "They've destroyed every probe sent into their system. They're completely isolated. And we're supposed to establish communication in—" "How long?" 48 hours, Tae Young said. "While also rescuing a disabled ship, preventing a 3-way war, and proving we can handle anything the galaxy throws at us." "This is insane," Sung said. "This is humanity," Hana replied with a tired smile. Tae Young pulled up the tactical display. "Here's how we're going to do this. We split into 3 teams. Team 1 handles the ship rescue. Team 2 makes first contact. Team 3 stops the war." "That's not enough people for any of those tasks," Bora protested. "Then we work smarter." Tae Young pointed to the rescue scenario. "The disabled ship is in a gravity well that's pulling it toward a black hole. Assembly protocols say to carefully calculate the safest approach, which takes days. We don't have days. So we skip the calculations?" Hana asked. "So we do them faster." "Dr. Lee, how quickly can you calculate a safe approach if you're willing to accept a 10% risk margin instead of the assembly's 0.01%? Yuna grinned. "About 4 hours. Then you have 3. Next, the war." Tae Young looked at Bora. 3 species fighting over resource rights. They've been arguing for 2 years. The assembly thinks this requires months of careful mediation. "What's your idea?" Bora asked nervously. "Give them something bigger to worry about than each other." "I'm sorry, what?" "Create a common enemy. Something that threatens all 3 equally. Something that requires them to work together." Bora's eyes widened. That's manipulative. That's against every diplomatic principle." "It's also fast," Tae Young said. "Can you do it?" Bora swallowed hard. I think so. Maybe. If I don't think too hard about the ethics." "Think about the ethics after we pass," Tae Young said. He turned to Min Seo. "First contact. This is the hardest one. The species is xenophobic. They've shown hostility to every approach. The assembly has tried radio, visual signals, mathematical proofs. Nothing worked. Because they tried one thing at a time," Min Seo said slowly. Understanding dawned on her face. "What if we try everything at once?" "Explain." "Overwhelm them with communication. Every format simultaneously. Sound, light, radio, mathematics, chemistry, even music. Hit them with so much information they can't possibly ignore it. Something will get through," Hana laughed. "That's either brilliant or completely insane." "Maybe both," Min Seo admitted. "Perfect," Tae Young said. "That's exactly the kind of thinking we need." They spent the next 12 hours preparing. The human fleet mobilized across 3 sectors. Ships moved into position. Equipment was tested. Plans were made and remade. Observer Prilnek watched from his monitoring post, filing reports every hour. The assembly was following the test closely. Everyone wanted to see if the humans could pull off another miracle, or if they would finally, catastrophically fail. In the assembly chamber, Commander Thilak sat beside High Arbiter Velmos. "Watching the same feeds, they're going to fail," Thilak said. "They have to. This is impossible." "They claimed their original trial was impossible," Velmos replied quietly. "They completed it 8 months early. This is different. This isn't about technology or resources. This requires wisdom, patience, experience. These are things humans don't have." Velmos didn't answer. He watched the display, watching the human ships move with purpose toward 3 different crises. 46 hours remained. On the bridge of the Resolution, Captain Tae Young looked at his exhausted crew. They had worked through the night. They had one shot at this. One chance to prove humanity belonged among the stars. "All teams ready?" he asked. "Ready," came the response from 3 different ships, 3 different locations, 3 impossible tasks. Tae Young thought about the first time he had said those words. "We've got this." The aliens had laughed. They had thought he was a fool. He opened the ship-wide channel. "All hands, this is the captain. The galaxy is watching. They think we're going to fail. They think this is too hard for us. They think we're just lucky children playing at being adults." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Let's show them what humans can really do." The rescue team went first. Captain Tae Young brought the Resolution screaming into the gravity well at speeds that made his crew grip their stations. Behind him, Dr. Yuna Lee called out trajectory corrections faster than the navigation computer could process them. "Gravity stress at 60% of hull tolerance," Hana warned. "Noted," Tae Young said, not slowing down. On the assembly monitoring station, alarms screamed. "They're going too fast," an observer shouted. "They'll be pulled into the black hole." Commander Thilax watched the display with his arms crossed. "They're fools," but the Resolution wasn't being pulled in. It was dancing. Tae Young flew the massive ship like a fighter craft, using the gravity itself to slingshot around obstacles. Every move was calculated down to the millisecond by Yuna's equations. The disabled alien ship appeared on scanners. It was tumbling, engines dead, falling slowly toward the event horizon. "Hana, how long to get their engines online?" Tae Young asked. "In a perfect situation, 4 hours. In this gravity field? Maybe never, so we don't fix the engines. We grab them." Tae Young brought the Resolution alongside the dying ship, matching its tumble rotation for rotation. It was flying that should have been impossible. The assembly's best pilots couldn't have done it. But Tae Young wasn't trying to fly safely. He was trying to fly fast. Magnetic grapples now. The Resolution latched onto the alien ship. Metal screamed as the connection took hold. Warning lights filled the bridge. "Hull stress at 90%, Hana shouted. "Hold together," Tae Young muttered like he was talking to the ship itself. "Just hold together." He fired the engines at full power, pulling both ships away from the black hole. The Resolution groaned. Metal bent, but it held. They cleared the gravity well 18 minutes after entering it. The assembly had estimated a 4-day operation. Tae Young had done it in less than 20 minutes. "Rescue team successful," he reported calmly, as if he hadn't just performed flying that would be studied for decades. Moving to support diplomatic team. Across the sector, Ambassador Bo-Ra Nam sat in a small diplomatic shuttle, shaking. She had never done anything like this before. She was a junior ambassador. She filed reports. She took notes in meetings. She wasn't supposed to prevent wars, but here she was, broadcasting a message to 3 hostile species. "This is Ambassador Bo-Ra Nam of Earth," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "I'm transmitting data on a massive radiation wave heading toward this sector. It's artificial. It's hostile, and it will destroy all 3 of your worlds in approximately 40 hours. She paused, letting the lie sink in. Because it was a lie. The radiation wave was real, but it had been created by humanity. Dr. Yuna Lee had engineered it in a lab, then deployed it carefully where it would look threatening but cause no actual harm. "Your war over resource rights won't matter if you're all dead," Bo-Ra continued. "We're offering our assistance, but you need to stop fighting each other and start working together now." Silence on the channels. Bo-Ra held her breath. Then one by one the 3 species responded cautiously, suspiciously. But they responded. "We need to verify this threat," one of them said. "Verify fast," Bo-Ra replied. "The wave doesn't care about your verification procedures." Over the next 6 hours, Bo-Ra coordinated the impossible. 3 species that hated each other started sharing data, comparing notes, planning defense strategies. She lied to them constantly, maintaining the fiction of the threat while secretly working with Yuna to make sure the radiation wave looked convincing on their sensors. It was manipulative. It was dishonest. It violated every diplomatic principle she had been taught. It also worked. The 3 species signed a temporary alliance. They agreed to resource sharing. They established communication protocols, all because they thought they had a bigger enemy. "We can confess the truth later," Bo-Ra told herself, though guilt twisted in her stomach, "after they've learned to work together." Meanwhile, Min Seo Kang faced her own impossible task. The xenophobic species lived on a planet surrounded by defensive satellites. They had destroyed every probe, ignored every transmission. They wanted nothing to do with the wider galaxy. Min Seo sat in her ship at the edge of their system, surrounded by broadcasting equipment that filled every available space. She had 30 different transmission methods ready: radio, laser, particle beams, even old-fashioned sound waves broadcast on multiple frequencies. "This is going to look like an attack," one of her assistants said nervously. "Or like we're trying really hard to talk," Minseo replied. She activated every system at once. The xenophobic species received 30 simultaneous transmissions, mathematical sequences, chemical formulas, music from Earth, visual art, binary code, quantum entanglement patterns, human languages, assembly languages, made-up languages. It was communication chaos. On the planet below, the aliens' defensive systems locked onto the incoming signals. Weapons charged. Minseo held her breath, waiting to see if she would be vaporized. Then something unexpected happened. One signal got through. Minseo had included human music in the transmission blast. Not because she thought it would work, but because she had to try everything. She had included classical music, rock, pop, jazz, and traditional songs from dozens of cultures. The xenophobic species responded to the music. A simple mathematical sequence came back. Basic, curious. The universal language of prime numbers, but wrapped in rhythmic patterns that matched the music's beat. "They like music," Minseo whispered in amazement. "They communicate through rhythm." She abandoned every other transmission method and focused on that one. She sent back mathematical concepts encoded in musical patterns. The aliens responded faster. Within an hour, they were having a conversation. Within 3 hours, they had established basic trust. Within 6 hours, the xenophobic species sent their first message to the wider galaxy. It was simple. "We hear you. We will listen." First contact. Achieved through music and mathematics and the simple refusal to give up. Back in the assembly chamber, the observers watched in growing disbelief. All 3 impossible tasks were succeeding. The rescue was complete. The war was halted. First contact was established. 46 hours, High Arbiter Velmos said quietly. They completed everything in 46 hours. Commander Thalax said nothing. He just stared at the displays showing humans succeeding where 23 other species had failed. The human fleet regrouped at the rally point. Tae-young stood on the bridge of the Resolution, looking at reports from all 3 teams. They had done it. Against all odds, against all expectations, they had succeeded. 43 minutes remaining, Hana reported. "We finished early." A communication request came through from the assembly. Tae-young accepted it. High Arbiter Velmos appeared on screen, and for the first time since they had met, he looked genuinely stunned. "Captain Kim, your teams you've completed the Kavath scenario." "Yes, High Arbiter." "How?" It was the question Tae-young had been asked 100 times. "How did you move so fast? How did you build so much? How did you solve impossible problems?" "We don't know how to quit," Tae-young said simply. "When we say we've got this, we mean it. Failure isn't in our vocabulary. It's just another problem to solve." Velmos was quiet for a long moment. "Your methods are unorthodox. You violated protocols. You took risks that could have been catastrophic, but weren't." "No," Velmos admitted. "They weren't. You succeeded where we thought success was impossible." He paused, and when he spoke again, his voice was different, softer, almost humble. "The Galactic Assembly has spent 3,000 years building civilization based on careful planning, measured progress, elimination of risk. We thought this was the only way. We believed species needed to be cautious, conservative, methodical. And now?" Tae-young asked. "Now I wonder if we were wrong. If we've spent millennia trying to eliminate the very thing that makes civilizations great." Velmos looked directly at the camera. Irrational optimism. The belief that impossible just means difficult. The refusal to accept defeat. On the bridge, the entire crew had gone silent, listening. "The assembly votes to grant humanity full membership, effective immediately," Velmos said. "No probationary period. No additional tests. You have proven yourselves beyond any doubt." Cheers erupted across the ship. Tae-young felt something loosen in his chest. A tension he had been carrying for 2 years. "Thank you, High Arbiter." "Don't thank me yet," Velmos said. But there was something like a smile in his voice. "Full membership means full responsibilities. The galaxy has no shortage of impossible problems. Now we'll be asking you to solve them." Tae-young grinned. "We've got this." Later, after the celebrations had died down, Hana found Tae-young alone on the observation deck, staring out at the stars. "We did it," she said quietly. "Yeah, we did. They're going to give us new assignments, harder ones. Problems that have stumped the galaxy for centuries." "Probably." Hana was quiet for a moment. "Do you ever worry we're going too fast? That we're going to fail eventually?" Tae-young thought about that. About the impossible tasks they had completed. About the lives they had saved. About proving over and over again that humanity deserved a place among the stars. "Maybe someday we'll find something we can't do," he said finally. "But it won't be because we didn't try. It won't be because we gave up. It won't be because we accepted that something was impossible.